The snow fell thick and silent over the small town of Salem, New York, blanketing the rooftops and empty streets in a layer of pristine white. Twinkling Christmas lights decorated every home, their soft glow reflecting off the icy ground. It was the early hours of Christmas morning, and inside a modest two-story house at the edge of the woods, the Johnson family was fast asleep. A young couple, Sarah and David, lay peacefully in their room, while down the hall, their 7-year-old daughter, Emma, clutched her favorite stuffed reindeer, a smile spread across her cherubic face even in her dreams. Beneath the tree in the living room, a mound of brightly wrapped presents awaited her eager hands at dawn. But not all was tranquil in the Johnson household. The heart of their home, in more ways than one, paced quietly through the shadows. Sitting on the windowsill in the corner of the living room was Jasper, their black and white tuxedo cat, his sharp yellow eyes fixed on the snowy world outside. Jasper was no ordinary house cat. He was a survivor. Sarah had found him a year ago at the local animal shelter, a scrawny, ragged stray who had been overlooked for weeks. His left ear was slightly torn, his coat patchy and dull back then, but his spirit was unmistakable. Jasper had fought for every breath, and Sarah saw something in him, a kindred resilience. She brought him home, much to Emma's delight, and Jasper had quickly claimed his place in the family. Even for Sarah and David, Jasper's presence had a quiet, unspoken impact that went far beyond the role of a typical pet. For David, who often struggled with stress from his work as a contractor, Jasper had become a calming presence, easing his tension during those long nights in the garage. And for Sarah, who dealt with moments of anxiety from her high-pressure job as a nurse, Jasper brought a surprising sense of peace and balance. His mere presence seemed to remind them to slow down, to breathe, and to appreciate the here and now. It's no wonder that studies have shown how deeply animals can influence our mental well-being, especially in the later stages of life. In fact, animals like Jasper have been proven to bring comfort, reduce stress, and even alleviate feelings of loneliness, a theme deeply explored in the transformative guide, How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age. Since the day Jasper joined their home, he had become more than a pet. He was a companion to Emma during her lonely moments, a quiet presence for Sarah when her anxiety flared, and even a buddy for David, who often found himself talking to the cat as he tinkered in the garage. But most of all, Jasper was a protector. He patrolled the house like a sentinel, alert to every creak and whisper of the wind. And this Christmas night, while the Johnsons slept soundly, Jasper's instincts were on high alert. Something wasn't right. The living room was dimly lit by the faint glow of the Christmas tree. Jasper's ears perked at the faintest crunch of snow outside. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but his feline senses picked up what no human could. His tail flicked, and his pupils dilated as he leaped gracefully down from the windowsill. Jasper moved like a shadow, gliding across the wooden floor and positioning himself near the front door. The muffled sound came again, this time louder, closer. A set of footprints broke the undisturbed blanket of snow leading up to the house. Inside, the warmth of the fireplace crackled, a stark contrast to the chilling presence creeping closer outside. Jasper crouched low, his body taut with tension, every muscle ready to spring into action. He didn't understand human intentions, but he recognized danger when it drew near. His fur bristled as he caught the faintest scent of something foreign, something unwelcome. Sarah had always said that Jasper had an uncanny sixth sense. He would meow insistently before a storm or pace restlessly when Emma was unwell. Tonight, that same sense was screaming at him. As the clock on the wall struck 2 a.m., Jasper's ears swiveled toward the sound of the front door handle rattling softly. The intruder didn't expect anyone, or anything, to be awake. They'd been watching the Johnson house for days, noting their routines and the gifts piling up under the tree. To them, this was the perfect target, a secluded home, a family deeply asleep, and a wealth of valuables to plunder. But what they hadn't accounted for was Jasper, the quiet guardian who never let his guard down. For the Johnsons, Christmas was a season of joy, love, and togetherness. Sarah, a nurse, had worked double shifts all week, desperate to make this holiday special for Emma. David had spent hours fixing up an old wooden sled as a surprise gift for their daughter. And Emma, with her wide eyes and boundless energy, had spent weeks excitedly rehearsing for the Christmas play she performed at school just days before. They were a family brimming with warmth and kindness, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing outside their peaceful bubble. The house, though modest, had a charm that made it feel like home. The living room was adorned with handmade ornaments, the stockings hung carefully by the fireplace, each one lovingly embroidered by Sarah herself. It was a place of comfort and safety, or so they thought. As Jasper's claws clicked softly on the hardwood floor, he moved with purpose, his gaze locked on the door. His ears picked up the faint metallic sound of tools fiddling with the lock. Jasper's world was small. Just this house, this family, and his duty to keep them safe. But to him, that was everything. As the tension in the room thickened, Jasper's sharp mind pieced together the danger. He was just a cat, but in his eyes, the love he felt for his humans was as fierce as any warrior's. And isn't that what makes animals so extraordinary? They give us everything: companionship, loyalty, and sometimes, even their protection, without asking for anything in return. This unique connection, particularly in the golden years of life, is one of the many insights explored in How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age, a guide for those seeking deeper understanding of the bond we share with our animal companions. And so, as the intruder breached the final barrier, Jasper prepared himself. What he lacked in size and strength, he more than made up for in courage. This was his moment. The soft click of the front door unlocking reverberated through the silent house like a gunshot in the stillness. Jasper's ears flattened, his pupils narrowing to razor-thin slits as his body crouched even lower. He pressed himself against the floorboards, becoming almost invisible in the shadows. The scent of the intruder grew stronger now, a mix of damp leather, sweat, and something metallic. He didn't fully understand what it meant, but he knew it spelled trouble. The door creaked open slowly, and a gloved hand reached in first, feeling around for the latch. The figure stepped into the warm glow of the living room, their heavy boots leaving melting snow in a trail behind them. They moved cautiously, their breath visible in short puffs as they adjusted to the sudden warmth of the house. In one hand, the intruder carried a crowbar, its dull black surface catching the reflection of the twinkling Christmas lights. Jasper's gaze followed every movement, his tail swishing once before going perfectly still. To the intruder, the house was silent, sleeping, but Jasper was watching. From his hiding spot behind the couch, the cat's mind worked quickly, trying to assess what this stranger would do next. The intruder paused by the Christmas tree, their greedy eyes scanning the heap of presents. Slowly, they knelt, setting down the crowbar to begin sorting through the gifts, oblivious to the predator lurking mere feet away. The first noise Jasper made was almost imperceptible, a low, guttural growl deep in his throat. It wasn't enough to catch the intruder's attention, not yet. But Jasper was testing, calculating. His heart raced as he inched forward, each step deliberate, his paws silent against the hardwood floor. His instincts told him to attack, but not recklessly. He had one chance, and he couldn't afford to fail. Upstairs, the Johnson family remained blissfully unaware. Emma stirred in her bed, murmuring softly in her sleep, but didn't wake. Sarah and David were wrapped in each other's arms, exhausted from the preparations and work leading up to the holiday. They had no idea their safe haven had been breached, or that their feline guardian was now their only line of defense. The intruder began tearing at the wrapping paper of the presents, his hands quick and rough. The sound of ripping paper was loud in the otherwise silent room, mingling with the occasional pop of the fireplace. Jasper watched as the man muttered under his breath, stuffing smaller boxes into the backpack he'd slung over one shoulder. Jasper's tail flicked once, a tiny movement that might have gone unnoticed by anyone less attuned to their surroundings. But the intruder froze, his head snapping up. He looked around, his eyes narrowing as they swept over the room. The glow of the Christmas tree cast dancing shadows on the walls, and for a moment, he thought he was imagining things. But then he saw them, two pinpricks of light gleaming in the darkness, unblinking and focused. Jasper didn't move, his body a coiled spring of tension, but his presence was undeniable now. "Just a damn cat," the intruder muttered, his voice low and rough. He shook his head and went back to rummaging through the gifts, dismissing Jasper as nothing more than an annoyance. But Jasper wasn't just a cat. This is where the connection between animals and humans becomes truly profound. While humans can sometimes be quick to underestimate the emotional intelligence and instincts of their animal companions, those who have lived closely with pets, especially in older years, know better. Studies have repeatedly shown that animals, like Jasper, have an almost intuitive sense of human emotions and environmental threats. These innate abilities not only make them incredible companions but also natural protectors. In the guide, How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age, this very connection is explored in depth, offering insight into how animals help us navigate life's greatest challenges. The moment the man turned his back, Jasper launched himself forward, a blur of black and white streaking through the air. He aimed for the man's hand, claws unsheathing as he latched on with a ferocity that belied his small size. The intruder yelped in surprise, flinging his arm wildly as he tried to dislodge the cat. Jasper held on, his claws digging into the thick fabric of the man's coat, his teeth sinking into the exposed skin of the intruder's wrist. "Get off me," the man hissed, stumbling backward. He swung his arm again, this time managing to shake Jasper loose. The cat landed gracefully on his feet, his fur puffed out and his back arched. He let out a loud, warning yowl that echoed through the house, a sound so fierce and guttural it didn't seem possible it had come from such a small creature. The noise stirred Sarah awake. She blinked groggily, her brow furrowing as she registered the strange sound. "David," she whispered, nudging her husband. "Did you hear that?" David grunted, half asleep. Probably just Jasper knocking something over. But the sound came again, louder this time, and it wasn't the kind of noise a cat made in play. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she sat up, her senses suddenly alert. "Something's wrong," she said, her voice trembling. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, her fingers fumbling as she tried to unlock it. Downstairs, the intruder was growing angrier by the second. "You've got to be kidding me," he growled, reaching for his crowbar. He swung it at Jasper, the heavy metal slicing through the air with a menacing whoosh. But Jasper was faster. He darted to the side, his body low to the ground as he circled the man, looking for another opening. The man swung again, missing by inches, the crowbar striking the edge of the coffee table with a loud clang. The noise reverberated through the house, jarring Sarah and David fully awake. Emma sat up in her bed, clutching her stuffed reindeer tightly as fear prickled at the edges of her awareness. Jasper didn't retreat. He hissed loudly, his tail lashing as he stared the intruder down. In that moment, he was more than just a house cat. He was a protector, a warrior defending his family from harm. And despite the danger, he didn't back down. It's moments like these that truly remind us how animals can embody courage and resilience, teaching us lessons we didn't know we needed to learn. The deep bonds we share with them, especially in our most vulnerable moments, are what make their companionship so irreplaceable. For those in their later years, this bond becomes even more critical, helping combat loneliness, improve mental health, and provide a renewed sense of purpose, as highlighted in How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age. The intruder, now frustrated and slightly panicked, took a step toward Jasper, raising the crowbar for another strike. But Jasper anticipated the movement. With a powerful leap, he sprang onto the man's face, his claws finding purchase in the exposed skin. The man screamed, dropping the crowbar as he tried to pry the cat off, stumbling into the Christmas tree in his struggle. Ornaments shattered as they hit the ground, the sound like gunfire in the tense air. Jasper clawed and bit with a ferocity that surprised even himself. He wasn't fighting for survival. He was fighting for his family. "Jasper!" Emma's scream pierced through the chaos like a siren, her small voice trembling with fear and anguish. She bolted down the stairs, her stuffed reindeer clutched tightly in her hands, her bare feet slipping slightly on the polished hardwood floor. Behind her, Sarah and David followed in a panic, their hearts pounding as they tried to piece together the commotion. The scene that greeted them in the living room was devastating. Their Christmas tree was toppled, ornaments shattered in every corner, and near the wall, Jasper's motionless body lay crumpled on the ground. David's eyes darted toward the open front door, catching a glimpse of the intruder fleeing into the darkness of the snowy woods. Rage flared in his chest as he grabbed the fireplace poker, ready to pursue. "Stay with Jasper," he barked, his voice a mixture of anger and fear. "I'll get him." Without waiting for a response, he sprinted out into the cold, leaving Sarah and Emma frozen in the living room. "Mommy, he's not moving," Emma sobbed as she dropped to her knees beside Jasper. Her trembling hands hovered over him, too afraid to touch him but unable to look away. Tears streamed down her face, dripping onto Jasper's black and white fur. Sarah crouched down beside her, her hands shaking as she gently stroked Jasper's side, searching desperately for any sign of life. "Oh, Jasper," she whispered, her voice breaking. She pressed her fingers against his small chest, her breath catching as she waited. And then, there it was. A faint, uneven rise and fall. It wasn't much, but it was enough. "He's alive," Sarah said quickly, her voice suddenly steadier. "Emma, sweetheart," grabbed the blanket from the couch. "Hurry!" Was his moment. D the knit blanket from the couch and dragged it back to her mother. Sarah carefully wrapped Jasper in the blanket, cradling his limp body in her arms as though he were her own child. "We have to get him to the vet," she said, her voice resolute. "Now." The sound of crunching snow signaled David's return. His face was flushed from the cold, his chest heaving. "He's gone," he said breathlessly, frustration and guilt etched into his expression. "I couldn't catch him." His eyes fell on Jasper, his heart sinking at the sight. "Is he?" "He's alive," Sarah interrupted, cutting through his despair. "But we don't have time to wait. Get the car." David nodded, his jaw tightening as he rushed to grab the keys. Emma, her face pale and tear-streaked, followed close behind her parents as they hurried out into the icy night. She climbed into the back seat, clutching her stuffed reindeer like it was a lifeline. Jasper lay bundled in Sarah's arms in the passenger seat, his breaths shallow but present. The drive to the emergency vet clinic felt agonizingly slow despite David speeding down the icy roads. The car was silent, save for Emma's muffled sniffles and Sarah's whispered reassurances to Jasper. "Stay with us, buddy," she murmured, her hand resting gently on his head. "You're so strong. You're going to get through this." And she believed it. She had to. For Sarah, Jasper had become more than just a companion. He was a lifeline in moments of overwhelming stress, a reminder to pause and breathe. In times of struggle, animals like Jasper often take on roles we don't expect. They comfort us, protect us, and even inspire us with their quiet strength. These qualities are especially life-changing for those in their later years, as explored in the guide, How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age. Jasper wasn't just a cat. He was proof of how deeply animals can transform our lives when we need them the most. The lights of the clinic came into view, a beacon of hope against the dark, snowy landscape. The Johnsons rushed inside, where a tired-looking veterinarian and a receptionist greeted them. Sarah didn't hesitate. "He's hurt. He protected us from a break-in," she explained, her voice trembling. "Please, you have to save him. He's our family." The vet nodded, taking Jasper gently from Sarah's arms. "We'll do everything we can," she promised before disappearing into the back room. Emma clung to Sarah's leg, her body trembling as tears welled up in her wide, innocent eyes. "Is Jasper going to die?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Sarah knelt down, pulling Emma into her arms. "No, sweetheart," she said firmly, though her own tears threatened to spill. "Jasper is the bravest kitty in the world. He fought for us because he loves us. And now we're going to fight for him." The minutes stretched into hours as the Johnsons waited in the sterile clinic waiting room. Emma sat curled in a chair, her stuffed reindeer tucked tightly under her chin. David paced back and forth, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. Sarah sat silently, her hands clasped together as though in prayer. When the veterinarian finally emerged, her face was calm but serious. "Jasper is stable," she said, offering a small, reassuring smile. "He's got a fractured rib and some bruising, but there's no internal bleeding. He's incredibly lucky, and incredibly tough. He'll need a lot of rest, but I think he's going to be okay." The relief in the room was palpable. Sarah let out a shaky breath, her shoulders sagging as the weight of the night lifted. David nodded, his hand gripping hers tightly. Emma bolted out of her chair, running to the vet. "Can I see him?" she asked, her voice still trembling but now tinged with hope. The vet chuckled softly. "He's resting now, but yes, you can see him. He's a fighter, that's for sure." Emma stepped into the back room with Sarah and David close behind. Jasper lay on a padded table, his body swaddled in bandages. His eyes fluttered open at the sound of their voices, his tail giving the faintest flick. "Jasper!" Emma cried, tears spilling down her cheeks as she gently stroked his head. "You're so brave. I love you so much." Jasper let out a weak but steady purr, a sound that filled the room with warmth. That night, as they prepared to bring Jasper home, the Johnsons realized that their lives would never be the same, not because of the fear they'd felt, but because of the love and courage that had carried them through. The drive home from the clinic that evening felt different. The snow had stopped falling, leaving the town blanketed in a soft, untouched white. Inside the car, however, there was a newfound warmth, an unspoken gratitude that filled the space between the Johnson family. Sarah sat in the back seat with Emma, who refused to leave Jasper's side. The cat lay bundled in his blanket, resting on Emma's lap, his breathing steady but shallow. His purring, though faint, reassured them all. Jasper was still here. It was in that moment that the Johnsons truly understood the depth of their bond with Jasper. He wasn't just a pet, he was family, a protector, and a source of emotional strength. This connection, which so many share with their animal companions, is precisely what makes them so invaluable, especially for those navigating life's challenges later in life. For anyone seeking to deepen their understanding of this incredible bond, How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age offers powerful insights and practical tools for harnessing the healing power of animals. David glanced at them through the rearview mirror, his hands gripping the wheel as he carefully navigated the icy streets. "He's going to be okay," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. Sarah reached over and gently rested a hand on his shoulder. "We're all okay," she replied, her voice full of emotion. "Because of him." Emma leaned down and kissed Jasper's head, her small fingers stroking the bandages around his ribs. "You're my hero, Jasper," she whispered. "The best Christmas gift ever." When they arrived home, the house was still as they had left it, a chaotic reminder of the night's events. The Christmas tree leaned awkwardly against the wall, its ornaments scattered across the floor. The stockings hung crookedly by the fireplace, and the faint smell of burnt wood lingered in the air. But none of it mattered anymore. All Sarah could see was the place where their family had fought to protect each other, and won. "Let's get Jasper comfortable," Sarah said, guiding Emma inside. David followed, carrying the makeshift bed they had prepared for him in front of the fireplace. Once Jasper was settled, Emma curled up beside him, her reindeer stuffed animal tucked under her arm. She refused to leave his side, even as Sarah and David began cleaning up the remnants of the night. As the hours passed, the Johnsons worked quietly but with purpose. Sarah carefully picked up the broken ornaments, running her fingers over each piece as though they were fragile memories. David swept up the shattered glass and reset the tree, its lights glowing faintly as he plugged them back in. Emma stayed by Jasper's side, whispering stories to him about her favorite Christmas memories and how much she loved him. And in those quiet moments, something remarkable became clear. The presence of an animal, no matter how small or unassuming, has the power to heal far more than physical wounds. Jasper had risked his life for them, but now, in his vulnerability, he was teaching them something just as profound. His bravery brought them closer, his love reminded them of what truly mattered, and his recovery gave them a renewed sense of hope. It's this bond, this mutual healing, that makes animals so transformative in our lives, particularly for those navigating the challenges of aging or emotional isolation. As highlighted in How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age, pets like Jasper don't just offer companionship, they help us rediscover resilience and connection in the most meaningful ways. By New Year's Eve, Jasper was already showing signs of recovery. He moved gingerly but determinedly, stretching his legs and even venturing small steps toward Emma when she called to him. "Look, Mommy," Emma exclaimed, clapping her hands. "Jasper's walking." Sarah knelt down, tears filling her eyes as she watched the cat take slow, careful steps across the living room floor. "He's so strong," she whispered. "Stronger than I ever imagined." David smiled from his spot on the couch, his arm resting on the back as he watched his family. "He's teaching us all a lesson," he said quietly. "About courage, about love, about how much we need each other." That evening, as the family gathered around the fireplace to toast to the coming year, they found themselves reflecting on the journey they had just taken together. Jasper lay curled in his bed, his tail flicking lazily as he basked in the glow of the fire. Emma placed her tiny red cape, a makeshift superhero outfit she had made for him, beside him. "This is for you," she said softly, "because you're my superhero." David raised his glass, his voice steady as he spoke. "To Jasper," he said, his eyes glistening. "Our protector, our family, and our miracle." "To Jasper," Emma chimed in, holding her juice box high in the air. Sarah nodded, her heart full as she leaned against David. The lessons of that Christmas night had already begun to change them. The fear they had felt had given way to gratitude, the chaos replaced by peace. Jasper, though still healing, had brought something intangible yet profound to their lives. A reminder that love is worth fighting for and that even in our weakest moments, we can be stronger than we ever imagined. For Sarah especially, this experience deepened her understanding of what Jasper had truly given them. He wasn't just a protector that night. He was a healer, a reminder that the bond between humans and animals is something sacred. It's this very idea that inspired the insights shared in How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age. Whether it's providing companionship during quiet moments or inspiring courage during life's challenges, animals have a way of transforming the lives of those who welcome them in. As the clock struck midnight, signaling the start of a new year, the Johnson family huddled together on the couch. Jasper purred softly in Sarah's lap, his golden eyes closing as he drifted off to sleep. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the world in a quiet peace. The Johnsons knew that life would move forward, as it always does. There would be new challenges, new moments of joy, and new opportunities to grow. But one thing was certain: Jasper had left an indelible mark on their hearts, one that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The snow outside continued to fall, blanketing the world in a soft silence that mirrored the peace now filling the Johnson home. Jasper lay curled in his favorite spot on the couch, the soft blanket draped over him as he purred quietly. His golden eyes opened briefly to survey the room. Sarah and David were seated nearby, sipping hot cocoa, while Emma leaned against the armrest, her fingers gently stroking Jasper's fur. The chaos of Christmas night felt like a distant memory now, replaced by gratitude and warmth. Sarah glanced at Jasper and couldn't help but smile. He wasn't just a cat, he was a member of their family, a protector, and, in many ways, a teacher. He had reminded them of the strength that love inspires, the courage that arises in the face of fear, and the simple, powerful ways animals can transform lives. It was a lesson Sarah would carry with her forever. For her, Jasper's bravery wasn't just about the extraordinary act of defending their home, it was about the everyday ways he brought comfort and connection to their family. She thought about how Jasper had helped her through moments of stress, how he had become Emma's best friend, and even how he'd softened David's tough exterior. In reflecting on this, Sarah couldn't help but think about others who could benefit from this same kind of bond, particularly those navigating the challenges of aging. The connection between animals and humans is something extraordinary. It's a bond that offers far more than companionship. It offers healing, strength, and hope. For those in their later years, this bond can be life-changing, helping to reduce loneliness, improve mental health, and even reignite a sense of purpose. That's why the Johnson family story resonates so deeply with the themes explored in the guide, How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age. This guide dives into the remarkable ways animals can enrich the lives of older adults, from combating isolation to providing emotional support during difficult times. As the fire crackled softly, Sarah looked at her husband and daughter, then down at Jasper, who was now sound asleep. "We're so lucky," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. David nodded, his hand resting on hers. "We've always been lucky," he replied. Jasper just reminded us. The lessons of that Christmas night would stay with them forever. Jasper hadn't just saved their home. He had brought them closer together, reminded them of the power of love and connection, and given them a renewed appreciation for the simple joys of life. And now, as the snow continued to fall outside and the new year began, they knew one thing for certain: Jasper wasn't just their protector. He was their miracle. If Jasper's story touched your heart, imagine the countless ways animals like him can transform lives, not just in moments of crisis, but in the quiet, everyday moments that mean the most. If you or a loved one are in the later stages of life, looking for ways to find companionship, joy, and healing through the bond with animals, then the guide, How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age, is for you. This insightful and practical ebook explores the emotional, physical, and mental health benefits of welcoming animals into your life. Whether you're seeking to improve your mental health, reduce feelings of loneliness, or simply deepen your understanding of the human-animal connection, this guide offers the tools and knowledge to make it happen. Let Jasper's story inspire you to embrace the transformative power of animals in your own life. Don't wait. Download your copy of How Animals Transform Human Mental Health in the Third Age today and take the first step toward a more connected, joyful, and fulfilling life with the help of our most loyal companions.